G'day ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza, and this video is my first impressions review of Toon, where I'm going to be sharing with you my very blunt, unsugar-coated first time experience in using and trying to learn Toon and what that will mean for me and my content moving forward. Now, before I get into Toon and my review thing, I'm going to give you a little bit of context as to me and where I come from as an animator. I'm an experienced Flash animator, and I've been animating with Flash for over a decade, ever since before it was an Adobe product. And it's very common these days that from time to time people like to dispute the viability of Adobe Flash as a professional animation tool in comparison to other tools out there on the market. But the reality is, using pretty much only Adobe Flash, I've been able to produce games, both big and small, animated shorts and music videos and website content, logos and branding, and a whole bunch of freelance client work, and the list goes on. So Adobe Flash has been at the core, basically, of my entire career. Now, this video is not an Adobe Flash review, but like I said, I'm saying this to give you some context. Flash is not perfect by any means. It has a bunch of flaws you sort of have to learn to work around, and it has quirks that you develop a bit of a love-hate relationship with. But in the end, relatively speaking, it's simple. It's very simple. Simple enough for 13, 14-year-old me to jump in and create animated shorts several minutes long, even without that much experience. And simple enough that today I'm able to teach intermediate to even advanced animation and production techniques in Adobe Flash. So now let's go to Toon. What is Toon? Toon is a brand of animation software, and it has very fast become the industry standard for professional animation. There is a lot of cool info out there on Toon, and it's all very impressive. The features of the software, like the 3D capabilities of the cameras and the powerful effects and rendering tools, the comprehensive catering to traditional animation, the ability to create complex character rigs and use features like inverse kinematics in an effective way. And then, of course, there's the fact that the program has a lot of very big, high-profile, fancy productions that use it. From shows like Family Guy and The Simpsons to Bob's Burgers, SpongeBob, Rick and Morty, The Princess and the Frog, from small-scale in-house productions to large-scale, even Disney productions. So it's built a name for itself very quickly. It's got some very high-profile stuff behind it, and that all is fantastic. In fact, it sounds so exciting and brilliant and like a godsend to animators. Now, for those of you who want to learn more about those list of features and a whole bunch of the different cool stuff you can do with Toon, my friend Colin from the Onion Skin YouTube channel, which is a Toon tutorial channel, is going to make a video for you guys to watch on my channel next week, which goes through a whole bunch of those features. So we'll get to all that stuff later, but right now we're just going through the introductory experience that I personally had and my thoughts on that moving forward, because while there are people who are experienced with Toon who can kind of profess its wonderfulness and recruit people, there are people like me who have to face the wall of that transition. And I'm creating this video to share my experience, and I'll be creating content in future to help other people in my position move forward and use it in an effective way. Because while all those features that I mentioned sound very fancy and very exciting, which they are, they're not really much use unless you can use them. To help you understand what I'm trying to say, let me explain. I used Toon for one day late last year. I sat down with the software and thought, okay, let's give this a go, and did what I normally do when I jump into a new piece of software: tinker around and have a play. That usually results in me learning a couple of things, obviously not even scratching the surface of the program, but gaining some familiarity and getting an idea as to how to use it, sort of scoping out my feelings with the software. My one day last year using Toon actually went terribly badly, and I hated it. Like, it was a really bad experience. It was a really bad user experience for my first time. So it kind of made me step back and think, okay, I obviously want to try and learn this software. There's a lot behind it, but that was uncomfortable. So I'm going to have to really set aside some time and really knuckle down and do this properly. Which brings me forward to now, where last week I tried the software again. I set aside 2 days straight where I knuckled down, I watched tutorials as I used the program, and I did it all while live on Twitch, getting some feedback from people and recording the whole process. And on day one, the experience almost identically echoed my experience late last year, and that is not very good. I'll let the footage explain what I mean. I didn't mean to do this. Go back. How do I make it go back to its default position? I don't know. I pressed a shortcut to something and these blue and yellow lines appeared. I don't like this color picking mode though. How did you get that? Oh, god damn it. I really want to move the f***ing thing with a thing. There is no f***ing shortcut. Oh god.
It's doing that.
It's not doing that. It's not doing that.
Grab the...
Learning is painful. The symbol wasn't animating when I went back to the main timeline. Now when I hit erase and erase all this, the only thing that is removed is what I've recently drawn. Why do this? Oh my god, it's so f***ing infuriating. I can't just undo. I have to reselect the whole thing and start again. And if I get it slightly wrong, yeah, okay, so I can pull it out. That's brilliant. Now undo and I have to reselect the whole thing again. So I have to manually drag out both sides. I've f***ing an inch away from quitting. That was a real struggle. So as you can tell, day one was extremely frustrating, but at the end I had something to show for it. And that's more than I had late last year, so that's good. So on my day one of using Toon Boom this year, last week, the experience almost identically echoed my experience late last year, and that is not very good. In fact, extremely frustrating. But I had a bit of a revelation on the day one of my 2 days in Toon Boom, and that is to use the tools in Toon Boom in a way that works for you. One of the problems, I think, is that when people share all the amazing features of Toon Boom and the fact that the brush tool and the pen tool are so different and do this and that, explaining all those features in that way and the way it does things differently doesn't necessarily apply to everyone in the same way. Everyone is going to use the same piece of software in a different way, but often I find that Toon Boom is sort of projected towards people in the same package, to be used the same way. And I was trying to use it in the way that people are saying, you use Toon Boom, it's wonderful, and it wasn't working for me until I changed the brush tool settings. I did it in a slightly unconventional way to the Toon Boom way to make it closer to my Flash experience, which I've been used to for 10 years, then finally got closer to something I was comfortable with. The same goes with the animation setup and the way that the pegs and the layers were sort of structured. I had to sort of translate into a way that I understood and could apply. So the result of day one was a lot of frustration, but through that revelation I was able to produce something. And I even got a little bit of a good feeling out of the fact that I could use that 3D camera. That was really exciting to me. So moving forward onto day two, with a very basic understanding of drawing tools and animation tools in Toon Boom, I set myself a little project. I stepped back, I paced myself, I approached it in a way that suited my workflow, and I produced something without as much stress that I was happier with. So in total, I've only had essentially 2.5 days using Toon Boom and trying to learn it. So now I'm going to move on to my very early first impression Toon Boom review. If you're jumping into Toon Boom expecting to create an animation after your first couple of tries, adjust your expectations. It is not a simple program. Even with over 10 years of experience in using Flash and experience in using other animation software, Toon Boom was a bit of a brick wall to hit head on. It uses an entirely different workflow, it approaches things with a very different mindset, and that may end up being a good thing, but from my experience in the way things have been set up sort of universally in other areas, it's quite jarring to immediately jump into. So my recommendation would be to do what I did in my live stream, following along with video tutorials. Once again, check out Onion Skin, made by Colin. He's got a whole bunch of tutorials up there already. It's a very young channel, but the benefit to you guys is that he's collaborating with me and my channel. So any questions that you have specifically or that I have, we can throw at him and he can create. And he also has a series specifically for migrating from Flash to Toon Boom, which I found quite helpful as well. So take your time, be aware of the complexity of the program and pace yourself. But my next piece of advice is don't work for Toon Boom, make Toon Boom work for you. Again, I'm only a novice in Toon Boom, but the only thing that got me to finally click a little bit with the software and to think, okay, maybe I can do stuff with this, is to make it work in a way that I needed it to work. And that's not a mindset that tends to be encouraged, I find, when people talk about Toon Boom and share Toon Boom. Like I said, it's often like we're given this piece of software that people say, this is how the brush tool works and this is how the pen tool works, and you must use that that tool and these camera tools and all the animation tools in this way because that's how Toon Boom works. Make it work for you. Take on what clicks with you, and with the other stuff that doesn't click straight away, try and adjust it and adapt it into the language that you use in your software or in programs that you're used to, or even step back and try other things before you get around to doing it. It's a very large program. There are lots of different tools in it. So, you know, you're not going to lose out from trying different aspects of it and then coming back to the start again. As far as pros and cons go, I'm sure the cons have sort of come across in this review. I found it extremely frustrating and user-friendly to learn. It's not a self-explanatory program. You're going to need guides, you're going to need tutorials. And for all the touting I've heard of how reliable and powerful Toon Boom is, in my first day using it this year, it crashed and I lost a bit of work and the experience felt a bit clunky. And that, of course, could be based on the fact that I don't know what I'm doing. But the overall con that I would say out of pros and cons would be the fact that it's not user-friendly and it's not beginner-friendly. The pros, of course, are very good, and I will admit that they are very, very worth considering and keeping in mind even through the frustration, because the outcomes that you can achieve are pretty fantastic. I did find that animation and drawing took longer. Of course, I'm not used to it, so that's going to make a huge impact there, but the tools did feel a little convoluted. I'm curious to see in time how that progresses and if it becomes more comfortable to me than Flash. But the pros of Toon Boom, the thumbs up, the pluses are fantastic. The 3D camera is ultra intuitive and smooth and effortless to create parallaxing scenes, to build some content with. And of course, this is with the higher up level of Toon Boom that gives you the 3D capabilities. But I found that feature alone is something that makes me want to continue and push forward with that, because it does make high-end refined content much more feasible and much simpler to produce in that aspect. So that's my basic experience of my very early interaction with Toon Boom and you know, my overall thoughts and impressions. Now, whenever I talk about Toon Boom and using Toon Boom and moving forward with Toon Boom, one of the questions I get a lot is, what am I going to be doing with Flash moving forward? That's an understandable question, as a lot of the people who have followed and subscribed to my channel have done so because of the Flash content and tutorials that I've produced, because when I began this channel, it was almost exclusively produced using Flash, and a lot of the content I create is Flash tutorial and stuff as well. My answer to that is I'm not going to stop using Flash. I've been using it for a long time, and I may use something else. I may even use Toon Boom almost exclusively for animation content and videos and stuff like that. Who knows? I don't know where the future takes me, but Flash has its place. And I genuinely don't think Flash will become invalid anytime soon. Anytime I want to create game content, prototypes for applications, or simple vector illustration, I always go to Flash. Not only because I'm used to it and familiar with it, but because it is very user-friendly and simple and easy to use. Now, in regards to my plans and intent with Toon Boom moving forward, after my 2 days experience, I became very aware of the fact that this is going to be a long process for me to learn Toon Boom. So don't expect any in-depth Toon Boom tutorials from me anytime soon, because I am not the one to learn from. I do plan on doing occasional content on some certain features or tools of Toon Boom that I learn as I sort of feel like I've familiarized myself with them, and can then relay and explain that process of learning it from my perspective as a Flash user to a lot of you guys who use Flash and want to learn Toon Boom. So I feel like I do have a valuable perspective there for some of you in that migration process. But if you're looking to learn Toon Boom now and immediately from experienced users, definitely go check out Onion Skin, who I mentioned before, and also go check out the tutorials on the Toon Boom website. They have a large video library of all the features, and just YouTube it. There are a few other users out there who make some cool Toon Boom tutorials as well. I plan to continue producing animation with Flash currently wherever I need to produce a reasonably fast professional result, because I'm used to it. But I also plan to start multitasking, and every now and then I might get a smaller client job or a smaller project that I feel up to challenging myself and doing in Toon Boom. And I think that is the best way to learn a piece of software. Give yourself little projects. You don't need to jump in head first. You don't need to feel like you just need to follow tutorials until you've mastered the program. I think the best way to learn is to do, but to do in a way that is sustainable and enjoyable. So that's what I plan on doing. My final verdict is that Toon Boom is well worth learning. It's frustrating and has its flaws from a user experience point of view, especially for beginners in the program, but it is powerful and it has amazing features and it's well worth trying to put in the effort to access those. So that's basically all I had to share with you. My experience, both good and bad, but the final verdict is I'm gonna give it a go, and it's definitely worth giving it a go through the tears and hair being pulled out. Let's try it. Thanks for joining, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you found this video interesting or useful in some way. Otherwise, until next time, I'll see you later. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel to see new content every week. Check out more of my stuff by clicking the annotations over there. If you want to support my work and get a few goodies for yourself, head over to my store for archives, ebooks, and get yourself something nice. If you're looking for a great place to collaborate, explore, or share your own content, head over to newgrounds.com. That's it for now, and until next time, see you later.